Happy, what is it, Wednesday, everybody here. Josh with On the Wrong Lead, joined as always by my co-host Andrew Champagne for another lovely edition of Drank and Champagne here, a Saratoga opening day version of Drank and Champagne here as Andrew points to the pink sheet and all his lovely picture of Saratoga he's got in his background. Yeah, Andrew. I mean, this is we're finally gonna get real racing in New York. Belmont is dead. Long live Saratoga.
Well, I don't know if we want to say Belmont is dead. I mean, we're going to be back there again in 2 months, but Saratoga's home for me. Saratoga's where I grew up. It's where I cut my teeth. It's where I learned how to handicap. It's where a lot of things happen that I'm incredibly proud of. Should we just address what has me like levitating above the ground right now?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and make the announcement?
So, for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, and if you don't, why not? You may have missed this, but it has been announced that my stuff, which you will always be able to find in the pink sheet right here and online at andrewchampagne.com before every racing day at Saratoga, will also run in the New York Daily News. This is so cool for me. Thank you. Thank you. It's really cool for me. I grew up reading the Daily News. When other people were reading Roald Dahl, I was reading Russ Harris. And by the way, unlike Roald Dahl, Russ Harris has not been canceled. So take that for whatever it's worth. But yes, what did I do?
That was correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. You used the ding for various different reasons. So I just wanted to make sure I was able to keep going with an understanding of what you were doing.
Although I guess if you're talking about canceling somebody,
could be. Yeah, that'd work too. By the way, it was miraculous. 3 minutes ago, Josh's soundboard did not work. But I am so excited about this. It brings my stuff to a significantly larger audience, and hopefully I'll be able to give that audience plenty of winners here at Saratoga. It is an absolute blast for me to be able to do that. It's something I always appreciate. It's something I always look forward to. It's a lot of work. It's really busy. It's always worth it because Saratoga's a cathedral. We don't have many of those in horse racing anymore. So anytime I can focus on that for 40 racing days, that's a win.
I don't know. I haven't used the air horn in a while.
Did we turn this into a rave? Is a beat going to drop at some point? I don't know.
We can.
God, please don't. Please don't. If for no other reason than this isn't bright enough to be at a rave.
Look, I'm just saying, the nickname gimmick that you have, look at you give me an opening to use the soundboard, I will. Much like your shtick over there. So.
Everybody has a shtick.
Freaking be me. Yeah. So Andrew, I see that you went and got a nice big old glass of water. I am drinking brown vodka.
Oh, nice. Yes, this is the black sludgy kind of water with some sugar in it.
Nice. So. What Coke?
It's the store-bought version at Safeway down the street. $1.29.
Oh, I'm actually wearing a Coca-Cola shirt today too.
Oh wow.
Funny story about this brown bottle of vodka I got here. So I have a last show I know I talked about my friend Bill, and I have another friend Bill. So my other friend Bill, who's actually local to me, he was gifted a bottle of scotch. It was I think it's Glen Rose 12-year scotch.
I'm just going to nod along like I know what you're talking about.
But the bottle, I think, was bottled in 1987.
Older than me.
So it was, I still can't believe you're younger than me. But it was bottled in 1987. So it was sold around 1999, 2000, right? 12 years after that. And I guess someone had gifted him this bottle. And due to hhis bachelor party, he no longer drinks scotch. And that's another story. But so he gave me this bottle, and it was in a nice little case and everything. Go to open the bottle, cork just stays in. The
Oh
whole thing
no.
comes out. Cork
Oh
just stays in.
no.
So now it's like, all right, well, I got to push the cork through, because I tried to get it out with a corkscrew, and all that happened is it disintegrated into the scotch. So had to
Well, that
get
just gives it a little more of a flavor, right? Right?
no, no. I so I had to run it through a coffee filter, just a paper filter, just to catch all the all the cork, and the only bottle I had a bottle of Kettle One vodka with probably about, I don't know, half a shot worth still in the bottom. So I was like, all right, well, I'll rinse this thing out and then I'll just pop it in here. So this is a 12 year a 12-year scotch in a Kettle One vodka, a finished. We'll go ahead and say it's finished in a Kettle One vodka bottle. But shout out to my other friend Bill for tonight's libation here.
Destiny's Child wrote a song about you. Bills, bills, bills.
Yeah,
Huh? Huh?
my telephone bills,
Yes.
automobiles,
Yeah, and then maybe we can chill.
chill. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we're all very old and very out of touch here on Drinking Champagne. If you're feeling sympathetic, go on down below, hit all those buttons if you're following along on YouTube. The like button, the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, everything but the thumbs down button. Just help us out. We're not above pity likes here.
But yeah, so I know we've talked about this a bunch, Andrew. But before we get into this late pick five, which is very interesting because there is a race where we have six horses covered and none in common.
And it's a pretty important race, guys.
So, but once again, what are your plans? You're planning on going up to Saratoga the weekend of the 11th. It sounds like.
Yep, I will be flying east bright and early on August the 9th, 5:20 out of Oakland, I think, with a layover in your neck of the woods in Chicago, getting into Albany around 3 o'clock that afternoon. Not quite sure what's going to be happening that night or, because at some point, this guy needs to get defended. The Friendlies Mini Golf Invitational, Joe Neville's Natalie Voss. You know who you are. I'm coming for you again. This thing will be mine, and you will have to laminate my name on the bottom again. But yeah, I'm flying east on Wednesday the 9th, going to be up there Thursday through Sunday. That was not the original plan. The original plan was I was going to fly back on Sunday night with a nonstop flight out of Newark to Oakland. Josh, do you have the Price is Right losing horn on there by any chance? Yeah. Thank you, Spirit Airlines, for canceling that route. Though, to be fair, I actually was able to reuse that Spirit credit. My fiance and I are headed down to Los Angeles for one of her sorority sisters' baby showers. And so we're going down there, seeing a couple of friends. And I'm hearing some funny stories about when my fiance was in a sorority that I am going to use against her until the end of time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. There's an outside shot that I make it that weekend. We're discussing currently with Caleb. Caleb may be going up that weekend. Caleb's dad may be going up that weekend, and I haven't seen Caleb's dad in a little bit. And I know, I like with Caleb's fun school schedule. I don't know how often I'll be able to see him. So kind of like thinking about trying to make the trip out, just because it's going to be, I think, a while before we're able to get together again. Um, I got to see about PTO at work, because we're like in the middle of this like crazy project, and they've decided to put random weeks of PTO freezing out there.
Oh, those are
So
fun.
yeah, and the project's been moved a couple times, so it's like I don't want to. Well, I got to see. I just haven't had a chance to look at work yet, so we'll see. We'll see what goes on with that, but and where we end up with like hotels and stuff like that. But we might be up that weekend, so stay tuned for that. Obviously, Mark is there every single day, basically. So if you really want to see Mark, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you
There's the
do,
stray. There's the
yep,
stray
yep.
right
If
there.
you do, Mark is always there. He'll show you around. He'll tell you all the people he knows.
He'll tell you why Charge It beats Cody's Wish in the Whitney.
He does, yeah, he will. He will as well. But yeah, so more to come on that. We'll figure that out. And there may also be a possibility of an Andrew Champagne sighting in Vegas on Travers weekend. So
We'll see. Nothing is
that's
definite yet, but I realized I have a whole bunch of Southwest rewards points that at some point I'm going to need to use. Otherwise, I lose them. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm starting to look into that now. We'll see what happens. That's something that, to quote the late, great Victor Hake, my grandfather, I'm probably going to need to clear with the War Department. No, not at all
no.
whatsoever. We are not going to do the Price is Right losing horn for the War Department. We're just not going to do that. I don't want to get in any more trouble in case my fiance finally decides to listen to this show again. We know that happened once before. Why would you do that to me? Better. And by the way, I did all of that on one breath.
There you go. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna be doing stuff. We're also, Mark, myself, and Caleb are gonna try and put some more content out, written content out on the website. Um, Maybe just a race a day, or best bet of the day or something. We're gonna try and figure. We're still workshopping it. As Andrew said, nothing like trying to get this entire thing off the ground within a week. Well, Andrew, how about 2 days? So we'll figure something out here. But yeah, we're gonna try and get some more written content out there. I know I've wanted to get more into written stuff and get better at writing, both for personal and professional reasons. I mean, it never helps. It never hurts to be a good writer. So I'd love to work on my writing skills a little bit. And the best way to do it, Andrew, is to actually write.
You get reps. Once or twice a year, for reasons passing understanding, one of my old Ithaca College professors has me in to talk to a group of kids. And the first thing I tell them is get reps as early and as often as you can. And some of the things you're going to do are going to be awful, but you're going to find your voice through that. And as long as you don't repeat your mistakes or repeat the same mistakes, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. So more to come on that. It'll be on Twitter. We'll post it on there, on Threads as well. Make sure you guys follow us on Threads.
At 142 winners on Threads, by the way.
I forgot what ours is. I think it's OTW lead.
You should probably realize what your Threads is before you hype your Threads.
I should, but
Put it down in the description of the video. That'll give people a decent place to go.
yeah, we'll get that up there. But
That's some free social media consultation for you. The bill's in the mail.
we could probably use all the social media consultation that we can get, because
Well, that could be a nice side gig for me. It's not like I need another one of those for the next 2 months.
you frequently say that we do not promote nearly enough. So
I don't say you don't promote nearly enough. I say, Josh, you don't promote nearly enough.
oh man, but yeah, why don't we get going here on this pick five?
Twist my arm.
Yep. So we're going to be looking at the late pick five here on Thursday. Obviously, there's an early pick five as well. But as far as I know, I think the computers are only not allowed in the late one, so it's usually the better one. But we do have a 5.5 furlong turf sprint optional claiming for New York breds here. Also, shout out to my friend Andrew Capone, because his favorite wager also starts in this race.
The Grand Slam.
And that's the Grand Slam, races 6 through 9.
People
But
named Andrew C. have really good taste. Just saying.
I couldn't find the boo button, but there it is.
You give me the layup, I will take the layup. And by the way, Josh, that encapsulates my thoughts on this sixth race. Shall I start?
Go for it. We got 12 runners in here, but I think we got a couple MTOs. And I think the 12 and 11 and the 10. So we got nine subscribed here. I will say I handicapped for being on the turf. Obviously, if we end up coming off and things change, obviously, a lot of this is kind of moot. But
Well,
go for
Thankfully, the forecast I saw did say some rain on Thursday night. So Friday is sort of in flux right now. Thursday, knocking on wood as I say this, thank you, Uncle Bill, for the table. Thursday looks okay. Now, you mentioned, 12 horses, 9 fully subscribed, a couple of main track onlys. People, you only need one. Could you please scroll down to number 2, Running with Scissors, who is 8 to 5 on the morning line? Josh, if Running with Scissors runs the race that he ran 2 starts ago at Belmont against Open Company, where he won by nearly 4 lengths despite not a great start, and that day's second place finisher came right back to win, if he runs that race again, who beats him? No one.
Mm.
The answer is no one. Running with Scissors comes back into New York bred company 3 starts ago. He beat a lot of these horses and did so in a fashion that didn't leave a lot of doubt as to who the best horse was. This is a runner that's got plenty of back class. Arad Ortiz Jr. sees fit to ride back, despite a little bit of a clunker last time out against what I think is a much, much, much better field. If you're playing this pick 5, know that there are going to be some very big fields signed on, and you need to single somewhere. I say you kick it off with the single right here with Running with Scissors. He hits me as far and away the most likely winner of this sequence. And the only reason he is not my best bet of the entire card is because Ollie, my boy, in race number 5 checks a lot of boxes for me. And if that one wins, it's going to be a pretty good day. But we're going to kick off the late pick 5 with a single. We are singling horse number 2 in race number 6. Josh, you're trying to beat that one. I now must ask for a moment of silence in memory of your pick 5 ticket.
So, are you saying that you are advocating for an Ollie My Boy, uh, the Running with Scissors double
It,
here from
it
race 5 and 6?
it's almost like you read on my website the bankroll play that will be going in the Saratogians pink sheet and in the New York Daily News. Because in addition to a win bet on Ollie, my boy, who's 3 to 1 on the morning line, and my God, I hope we get that price come post time, I will be playing a smaller cold double linking those 2 horses. If you're playing the pick 6, remember it's a $1 base wager. So if you're playing the pick 6, if you've got that kind of money, use my pick 5 ticket, which, spoiler alert, is going to be $48. Single Ollie, my boy, in the first leg. It's a $96 ticket, which, as pick 6s go, reasonably affordable.
Yeah, I am definitely against Running with Scissors in this
You hate
spot.
money.
I mean, I probably do. I probably just hate money. So the reason I'm fading, and maybe I'm putting a little bit too much stock into this, but this horse has run its best races going 6, and this is 5.5 at Saratoga. A lot of these horses that run well going 6 at Belmont don't necessarily transfer that form over to Saratoga going 5.5. If you go back to this horse's lone try going 5.5, the 29th of July of last year, that was a very poor effort, finishing 6th
That
by
was a
six and
stakes
three
quality
quarters.
field, though, Josh. Dancing
And
Buck was going really well. Fauci's a stakes quality horse. These are New York bred optional claimers, man. You can't penalize them
but
too much for that.
the fig this was not competitive there either compared to what some of these other horses have run. So I'm gonna have a fade on the 2. My top pick in this race is probably the 7 in this spot, Phantom Smoke,
Your favorite rider.
for Michael Michelli here, and or Maselli, sorry, and uh, Flavian Pratt. That's my favorite rider. But I'm looking at that form from last year, going 5.5 here at Saratoga. Went wire to wire in one of those efforts and sat just off the other. Has really competitive Briz figures here. It was also a very much shorter price here, and this horse is going from 4 to 5, or is a 5-year old. The 2 is a 7-year old at this point. His best days are behind him. I have a hard time, I just have a hard time going to that well with such a short price. So I like Phantom Smoke here a lot. I do have another A, which is the 4 Rough Draft for David Dugan and Jose Ortiz, lightly raced horse. Is kind of the reason I'm looking at this horse. So is four. It's got room to improve, right? It's a Warfront sire. So obviously is definitely one that's going to take or is going likes the turf. Obviously, has got 2 wins in the second, and has got probably the biggest jock upgrade you can possibly get, which is off Trevor McCarthy in any way, shape, or form. So you get Jose Ortiz aboard for this. And I don't know. This looks like a really good spot for this horse. It has been staying in that protected division, but does have a win at a nice allowance race. They're going six. I think I'm gonna get a little bit a better price on this four than I will the two. So I'll use the four and the seven most. But another horse that kind of piqued my interest was this six, Yarrow here for Christophe Clement and Manny Franco. And I did think it was interesting that Rosario wasn't aboard since he tends to get Clement's A string. But if you go back, Manny's ridden this horse 4 out of the last 5 times, so I'm sure this is just Manny keeping the mount here. But if you once again, this is another one. You go back to those Saratoga races, and those Saratoga races look pretty darn good here. So I have Yarrow written down as a B. Maybe that might change, but at least for today, I'm gonna keep Yarrow as a B. So I got the four, the six, and the seven in this spot, trying to beat the two.
So I picked Yarrow second, and I am admittedly a little bit intrigued by that one. I think that effort 2 starts back, where he ran second to who was the horse that wound up
Hmm.
beating him that day?
Running with scissors.
Yes. I thought that was a really nice effort off of a very long layoff. I think maybe he bounced a little bit last time out. And I've never subscribed to the theory that older horses don't bounce. Every horse bounces at some point, and there are some instances where it's a little bit more obvious. Yarrow just didn't have any punch or any pace to run at last time. A repeat of the race two back gives him a chance at a minor award for sure. I just think running with scissors is much, much, much better than the rest of this field, especially on figures. I mean, you mentioned Phantom Smoke. I would have picked Phantom Smoke third in this particular race. Flavian Pratt coming aboard is a big, big plus, but if you look on figures, I'm looking at buyer speed figures, and look, are speed figures everything? No. Phantom Smoke's career high buyer is an 84. Running with scissors regressed to run an 86 last time out against far better competition. I just think running with scissors has this field over a barrel if he's right, and I do think he is. You mentioned he's 7 years old. He was 7 years old 2 starts ago when he obliterated a better field. To me, that doesn't scare me.
Yeah, and I do have the optics plot up here. Shout out to Emily, but it doesn't really do much for me in this spot. This is one of those races where just looking at the plot, it doesn't really give you a lot, especially because a lot of these horses, haven't necessarily run this distance. I mean, your two does sit nicely in the center of the plot as a nice big square in the surface of distance. A little less impressive on the standard, but remember you got your MTOs and stuff in there. So, and this is the PDF, obviously a couple days out. The nice thing about optics, it updates for scratches. So, that's why I subscribe. So that way, when I pull up the website, I got all the scratches and everything there. But yeah, this is one that you look at after a couple scratches. Maybe things change, but didn't really help me out too much here. But I don't know. I'm gonna have the fade on there, and we'll I guess we'll go our separate ways here,
At least
Andrew.
one of us is going to look pretty stupid.
Both of us might look pretty
Well, that's
stupid. Who
why I said
knows?
at least.
Oh. I thought you were just gonna start singing Journey or something there because it
No,
says
no,
separate
no.
ways. But
Trust me. There's not. This is straight Coke. There's no rum in this, so don't worry about that. But we move on to race number 7. This is a starter allowance event. Josh, I see you've got a big old A by Into Happiness. Call me a Debbie Downer. I can't see it. Again, you give me the layup. I take the layup.
Yeah, I in this race I landed on 3 horses, and the one is actually my lone A, into happiness here. First out for Mark Hennig, and I'll tell you, man, that last race is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Has got the top Brisnet figure coming out of basically anybody who in this race. And when I look at the optics plot here, as I pull this up, yeah, you got this just big old square here on the standard plot. He's very prominent here on the surface of distance plot, and the PDF what it doesn't show is the par line. This is the only horse above the par line, and in the Q1. So I think this is going to be a horse that's going to be forwardly placed. Is going to have it show a nice turn of foot, going around the turn. And I think is going to be in the spot to try and win here. I will say I did use 2 other horses, and one that we did have in common. One being nine, which is the big Q1 square here, and was kind of the reason I used it. The nine being Condiment Girl is an E8 here, and I have the 9 and the 10 both kind of B with a question mark. These are ones that maybe they get moved up. Hey, if we see that speed is just absolutely, just unbeatable, I move up horses like the 9 and the 10, and maybe the one takes a step down. But assuming a fair track, I think the one might have a little bit better, like kind of a pressing type trip there, and might get the jump on a 9 or 10. But I'm going to be using the 9 and 10 as B's as well. But I'll let you go, Andrew, because I know you got a couple horses here you really like.
I do. We'll get there. I have questions about Into Happiness and Obrigata, two of the horses that you used based on class. And I know you're going to say, come on.
Class doesn't matter.
I steadfastly disagree with that assessment. Into Happiness benefited from a gigantic class drop last time, had been running against Optional Claiming Company, drops in for 40,000 against non-winners of 2 Life, decimated that group. Cool. On buyer speed figures, that did not come back well. That came back with a 76 buyer. She's going to need to improve considerably. And I see your Briz past performances there. I see a 101, which is a gigantic figure, especially compared to the ones she's been running against better horses. I think this is a prime bounce candidate here. I understand you're probably going to get a little bit of a price, and I respect that if you think this horse is going to run that 101 Briz figure race again. I don't think that's happening. Obrigata, meanwhile, has won 3 in a row, but is another that's coming out of very questionable claiming races, facing a good group for the level here. I much prefer a horse that's a little bit of a price on the morning line. If you can scroll all the way down to horse number 11, needs some money. I'm going to put you to work here, Josh, okay? And this is going to be for the benefit of our YouTube audience. If you're not following us on YouTube, what are you doing? Go on over, hit that subscribe button, really helps us out. I want you to take that red marker option that you have, and I want you to draw lines through all of the 2-turn races, specifically the races 3, 4, 5, and 6 back. Okay, good. Now go back into late 2022, those Keeneland and Churchill races, October the 9th and September the 17th. Josh, what do you see now?
Pretty decent horse.
You see a 1-turn horse. And that's precisely what Needs Some Money is. Needs Some Money wants this 7-furlong trip. It's going to hit her right between the eyes. Speed figure wise, maybe she needs to step up a little bit, but I think she's going to get an ideal setup. There is some speed signed on, and that cushy outside draw is going to give Tyler Gaffleone plenty of options. You highlighted a next out winner that ran second in the race that she comes out of. I think this one is very well meant and certainly worthy of inclusion on your multi-race exotics tickets. The other horse that I'm going to be leaning on as a fellow A is number 5, Safora Dada. And I usually hate these horses, Josh. 4 straight second place finishes for Safor Adada. But major equipment change, blinkers going on. Rick Dutrow got this horse not long ago, second off the layoff. And hey, this makes a lot of sense. If a horse tends to quit when it sees other horses, throw the blinkers on, keep the horse focused, and make it think it's the only horse on the racetrack late when it's moving the right direction. Figures wise, this horse checks out. Arad Ortiz Jr. sees fit to ride when he almost certainly had several options in here. You get a consistent horse that doesn't need to move forward a whole heck of a lot. Maybe the blinkers move her up. Dutrow has another in here in the form of number 8, Mersal, who looks a lot better if you toss the turf and synthetic races. I'm going to be using that one. And yes, I will also be using Condiment Girl, who sure seems like the speed of the speed in this spot. But the 5 and the 11 are the A's for me at a little bit of a price. We're trying to beat Obrigada, who's 3-1 on the morning line, and I think may very well drift down a little bit off of that number, given how many races Linda Rice has been winning downstate. So hopefully we can beat that one and knock out a couple of tickets.
Yeah, and so my issue with trying to beat Obrigada in this spot is just there's just a lot really going for this horse. Is a lightly raced horse, has won 3 in a row, and is a really really big barn change going to Linda's barn, who first off the claim obviously fires. There's just this is just the type of horse that it just seems like a lot going for it, a lot of bells and whistles, everything's going out for it. So, the price is obviously um, not super intriguing, but I used assuming I was going to beat a much shorter price in the first leg. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I think that the 10 has got a huge shot, and I think the 10, like I said, even scopes out even better looking at the optics plot here. So, but um, once again, I mean, hey, maybe this 9 gets us both through, or gets you through the first leg of the pick 4 after you bust out of the pick 5. So
Good betting race though. This is a fun betting race. It's one of those where you're going, oh, they couldn't have made it easy and put an 8-horse field with a 1-5 shot in there, but I think you need to go deep in that particular spot as we move on to race number 8.
yeah, and we didn't really talk much about this before, but I thought this was actually a pretty tough sequence.
Very,
Um,
very.
I generally I play maybe between a $75 to $100 structure on pick fives. Usually it's 2 or 3 tickets depending on how I'm playing. And my just kind of first ticket was like $80. So it's it's definitely a pretty tough sequence here. And there's a lot of horses, there's a lot of good or there's a lot of very competitive horses. And yeah, it is a fairly tough sequence here, and race 8 here, going a mile on the inner turf, and it's a nice allowance race, $50,000, and your favorite in this spot, if I can remember, is the 4, My Sea Cottage, for I believe
Favorite,
it's
and we
Mark.
use the term loosely, 7-2 on the morning line. You want a competitive betting race, folks? Here you go.
Yep, and that's for Mark Cassie and Irad Ortiz Jr. For me, this is a lone A, similar to the one last time. This is probably going to be your favorite. People are going to see Irad, and I think bet this horse. Uh, it's got the 3 cherry special here. We got the E, we got the 8, so we got to mark the 3 cherries here. But I think it's even more apparent when you look at optics. I mean, you got a lone Q1 square way out here in the front, and you got it both on the regular plot and on the surface of distance. Um, Optics thinks this horse is just going to get out there, get loose, and does have the kick to hang on. So I had a hard time getting past My Sea Cottage. Has gotten the lead going 6, or been near the lead going 6 furlongs. Has done it routing. Um, and so yeah, so I think the 4 is going to be pretty tough here. I did use a couple others. The 5 Kingfish Stevens here for JJ and Carlos Martin. Um, you know, Especially at Saratoga. and maybe this is just me being too heady thinking about this, and this is something I did pick up from Mark a little bit. When I see JJ get a board for kind of a smaller barn, maybe a barn that doesn't hit at a huge price, or a huge strike rate, it's always something that just like sets an alarm bell off, right? I'm like, why is JJ up on this? And I don't know why in particular. Um, I see this happen with Javier so much, but when I see him get on these smaller barns, I think they're usually live. And if you look at that race two back, that JW Murphy where he rode this horse, there's some pretty good horses in that race. I believe the winner of that race was is it Najarok?
Najarok, yes, I
Yeah, who
believe set a track record going a mile.
yeah. So very nice horse. I think came back out and finished second in a stakes race at Belmont last weekend, or second or third, I think. And so I know this horse came back and ran a route race here at Belmont. Horse looks like he's been working out very well. So I like that they're bringing this horse right back 10 days later. JJ's getting staying aboard here is going to get a nice pressing trip. And if you do look at the optics plot, is sitting nice and high there on that axis. So I think he's going to have a bit of turn of foot. Is going to be pretty close, and it might be the one that kind of gets the first run there on your four. Who, like I said, is your clear leader. And then the other horse I did use was the 11 Bricko for James Bond and Ricky Gogo Santana over here. And this one was more of a uh, kind of a deeper dive. I looked back through this horse's past performances, and if you look back at that July race at Saratoga, going a mile, horse one with Luis Saez had a nice closing kick there, and basically ran the best race of probably the best race of his career. Has got 5 runs over the surface, has got 2 seconds, has got a win. So I think that this horse is very live. You're getting a humongous price. And this, like, once again, this is a very, very big square that is, I think, just got a really good chance to close in on this lone speed. I got them both as Bs. I really think the four is going to be tough to beat. I think the four is going to have it all its own way on the front end. But hey, if something crazy happens, something goes on, I think these two other horses have a shot at picking up the pieces. Andrew, where did you kind of land here?
I think you only need two horses, and we agree. My Sea Cottage certainly looks like the controlling speed in this race. I don't want to say the lone speed. I think there is some zip in this particular spot, but my Sea Cottage sure looks like he's going to have things all his own way on the front end. And on the inner turf at Saratoga, especially, that's very, very dangerous. If my Sea Cottage goes out in, say, 23 and change, 47 and change, or even slower than that, he's going to be pretty tough to catch. Kingfish Stevens, though, interests me for a reason you didn't bring up, and I'm a little bit surprised about that because these running lines are usually things you love and you highlight. This is a horse that has a history of making middle moves in the middle of races that are maybe a little premature. If you look back at the Murphy, this horse ran fourth that day. The first couple of calls, 6 lengths behind, 6 lengths behind, 3 lengths behind all of a sudden in a very fast race. If you look at the last out effort, this horse moved early, flattened out. I'm thinking that's part of the reason we're getting blinkers on Kingfish Stevens. He does not seem like an easy horse to ride. He does, however, clearly have some talent. He ran fourth in that race on the Preakness undercard, and that was a very good race. Najarok was clearly best that day. He missed second by less than 2 lengths. If he runs second in that race as opposed to fourth, is he favored here? Maybe. 4 or 5 for me in this race at Saratoga. I think those are the only two win threats. If you're playing exotics, though, I've got an interesting bomb for you in the form of number 10 Consultant, who came off the layoff last time, moved a little early at Laurel. And what I love to see when I look at Consultant, I see a horse that has no problem going 2 turns. We talked about this a little bit last week when we talked about the differences between Belmont and Saratoga. Consultant is a dyed in the wool 2-turn horse. I think he might want a little bit longer of a stretch than he gets here, but Jose Lezcano is a very underrated turf rider who pops at a price several times every Saratoga season when you look at a horse and go, how is that horse 10-1 when it fit? This is a horse that won 2 and 3 back at Laurel before going to the sidelines and did not run badly in his seasonal debut last time out. So if you're looking for a price to throw in underneath, that would be the one that I give you. But as far as win candidates go, I think it's the 4 or the 5.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty leveraged through the 4. I do like the 5, and like I said, the 11's just kind of like a bit of a shot in the dark. But I thought that if you look at his last race on the inner turf at Saratoga, um, that race fits in here. So
All right, now it's time for the race I've been looking forward to since we hit record on this show. It is the Grade 3 Schuylerville. Cheap plug, by the way. I'm doing some video stuff for the Pollock Report. I will be looking at 1 2-year-old race every week for them, and this is the race that we chose. There's some cover video there. You'll be able to see some of these horses in their prior starts. It's a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. Again, going live every week there. Grateful for the opportunities that I'm getting. Field of 11. I'm using 3 horses. Josh is using 3 horses. We have nothing, and I mean nothing, in common.
yeah, I was I wouldn't say I was super shocked, but I kind of knew when I was fading the 7, the favorite in this race, or the morning line favorite rather, in Wine on Tap, that there might be a shot that you would use that horse and wasn't. But yeah, I wouldn't imagine that we didn't land on a single horse in common. But
And look, for those of you out there who are wondering how this can happen, it's my favorite part of doing these videos and doing handicapping seminars and talking horses with people. Josh and I have watched a lot of races and handicapped a lot of races. So when we wind up seeing the same race completely differently, that's the lifeblood of this game. It's pari-mutuel wagering. It's my money against Josh's money, against Mark Capitan's money, against everybody else's money in the pools. And that's why this is the greatest gambling game in the world.
for some reason, though, Mark Capitan's money just spends better. I don't know what it is about it, but
I know it's just, it's nice to be able to take his money sometimes.
hmm but yeah, I mean, why don't you go ahead and lead us in here, Andrew? What
Sure.
did you like here?
So, fun fact, Todd Pletcher and D. Wayne Lucas have each won this race 6 times. That's a record. If either one of them wins, it's lucky 7 for them. Wine on Tap is my top selection. Offspring of Tappet are not supposed to win first time out going 5 furlongs. This one did. Checked out well on the speed figures, a 76 Beyer, a 79 Briz number. Never once looked like a loser. I see a workout after that race, 7th fastest of 24 at the distance. You see Pletcher, you see Irad. This horse is supposed to be the favorite, and for good reason. The horse that I'm very intrigued by and would love to see in the post parade is all the way down on the bottom. That's number 11, Sugar Treat. Josh, the one thing that I will absolutely always give Gulfstream Park credit for, they put all of their races up on YouTube after their run. I don't know why more tracks do not do this. It is an absolute no-brainer. Sugar Treat's debut was eventful, to put it mildly. This is a horse that drew the rail on Gulfstream's synthetic surface and checked multiple times. The running line says steady at the 7/16 pole. There were 2 or 3 instances where the rider had to take that horse back because she wasn't quite quick enough to outpace the favorite that day, who wound up being a next out winner named Escape Room. Sugar Treat had to check, somehow found a way out from the inside at about the 3/8 pole. And even so, turning for home over that short stretched synthetic surface, Escape Room is 3 lengths ahead of Sugar Treat. Sugar Treat is not supposed to win. Sugar Treat is supposed to run a good second, stretch out, maybe run on turf, as you've mentioned. Sugar Treat rallies to win the race. And in doing so, beats a nice 2 year old that came back to win it next asking. You've put turf with a question mark on the past performances. I see a decent workout over the dirt on July 5th at Belmont, Josh. I see Flavian Pratt signed on to ride. I see an outside post position that might make things just a little bit easier than she had it in the debut. And I see a horse that learned a lot first time out. 6-1 on the morning line hits me as an overlay. And I'll also throw in number 5, Saratoga Secret from the barn of D. Wayne Lucas. This is not a horse that is bred to go one turn. This is a horse that's bred to go about 9 turns. By Arrogate out of a Fort Larned mare. That's distance top and bottom. Very professional first time out at Ellis Park. I tend to take Ellis Park times and figures with a grain of salt. It's a very quirky surface. It is much faster than you see at Churchill Downs, which is where these races were supposed to be run. Saratoga Secret's form, maybe it transfers over, maybe it doesn't. But that work on July the 1st, Josh, jumps off the page. 4 furlongs and 47 and 3 at Churchill Downs, fifth fastest of 92 at the distance. I've got to at least use this horse in the pick 5. That was the last horse I threw into my wager. The 7 and the 11 are my 2As. The 5 is a B solely because I could not live with myself if I went 4 for 5, and that was the horse that knocked me out.
Now, you're talking about workouts. How did you not use the 2, Becky's Joker here with the 3 furlong 34 and 4 bullet there?
I can tell you, and I take absolutely no pleasure in this, because Gary Contessa is one of the all-time good guys in the world of thoroughbred racing. If I was able to have a string of horses, I would want him training them. His first-time starters, though, by the DRF, 0 for 8 since he returned as a full-time trainer. That is not to say he can't win with a first-time starter, but this is a very tough spot for a first-time starter from anybody's barn, let alone a guy whose first-time starters are not necessarily fully cranked. Gary Contessa is not trying to get grade 1 winning 2-year-olds. He's trying to get horses that are competitive at 4 and 5. That's a case of trainer intent for me. Good luck to Gary. Hope he does well, but I just can't see it in here with a first-time starter when that's not his strong suit. That's all.
And before I get into this, I do have one horse I kind of had a question mark on.
You
Probably
and
not
me
what I'm
both. I
using
don't know what I'm supposed to do with that horse.
with the 1,
Yes.
Carmelina. On Brisnet, that figure is very, very good. And I will say that Parks figures in general, doesn't matter which product you use, are very suspect.
They're
I,
wacky.
and I think that they work very well if you look at them in a vacuum only at Parks, but they don't travel. You'll see a horse run at like an 85 buyer at Parks, and then show up at Saratoga or show up at Belmont, and he runs like a 65, and you're just like, where did that happen? So I don't know. I see Jose gets aboard, and when it comes to New York, Jose probably gets probably the second or third best horses in most races. I mean, he's probably got he's very well respected. I think outside of Irad, he might get the best. He might get the best mounts that exist in New York. But so it's interesting that he gets up here. I'm not going to use. I'm going to fade the Parks form, but that race looks really good. It's very impressive. I went back and forth here on kind of who my top pick was. I will say, the 4 status seeker would probably normally be more of a B type horse for me, but in these 2-year-old stakes races, they are so wild, and I don't want to burn a very good priced B in these types of races. If I can afford to kind of bump them up, right? So yes, like,
Especially early in the meet when you don't know how the track is playing yet. Listen to this. Josh makes a really good point.
yeah, and it's just because of the chaos factor of the race, right? These types of horses win this. And Rudy Rodriguez has not exactly had the best year so far. He's at 11% for the year, and he's probably normally around like 18 to 20% if we're being honest. But you see Joel Rosario get aboard. Joel rode this horse at Belmont, and if there's one thing I love to see in 2-year-old stakes races, especially early in the season, are horses that have passed other horses. And that's exactly what Joel did with this horse. Sat fourth at first call and just kind of had a nice progressive trip, passing horses and eventually winning by a half length. It's a professional type win. I personally haven't gone back to look at the replay, so it's something I will look just in case there's something else wonky. But at least on the past performances, this four with that pressing type trip, those are the types of horses I like to bet because you're going to see a lot of horses in these races that have all ones, and you don't know what's going to happen. I know this horse Joel's not going to go to the lead with this horse. I mean, even if it was all ones, Joel probably wouldn't go to the lead with it. But horse is going to be pressing, and horse is going to be finishing and doing his best running late. So the four is definitely one that I would key in exotics, and is one like I said, I have him written as an A. He's probably more of a B type, but I'm going to use him prominently in all my tickets. The sixth closing act was one that you know I've jokingly said form doesn't or class doesn't matter. Form does matter, but class doesn't matter. But class doesn't matter until it does. And so this
This
horse
is what we call selective logic, folks.
absolutely. This horse went ahead, won a nice 120K maiden. Steve got this horse out early. It's a Munnings horse. It's a win early pedigree, and just definitely a one-turn pedigree. But goes ahead, wins a nice maiden race. Comes back in the Astoria at Belmont, which was a listed stakes race for 150,000, and wins by 3 1/4 over. And there's a horse in this race that they have in common. It was at Union Street.
Union
Um,
suit, yeah.
oh, Union Suit. Sorry. And Steve is very much when he's got a horse that's going well, those horses tend to keep going well. Gets Tyler aboard again. Rode him for the maiden win. And once again, this is just another horse that I've seen that's passed other horses and has passed other horses in a stakes race. I think 10-1 is probably a bit of an overlay on a horse that's a little bit more proven than others. I will say the horse did kind of look like he did regress a little bit on Brisnet. I haven't looked at any other figures yet, so I can't make a definitive call on whether that race was really regression. But was a step up in class and was another win. So we'll see if this horse can make it three in a row at a nice price at 10-1. And then lastly, at 6-1, you got Dancing Diana here for James Lawrence, Johnny V. This horse broke its maiden at Delaware Park. Not exactly known for having these horses, just ship in and win from Delaware, unless maybe they're coming from one of the stakes races. But Michael Sanchez rode this horse last time out and won by 7.5. Very impressive win. Very nice speed figure on the Briz scale. Is coming in here, and it is going to have a little bit more pace pressure. I think it's going to have a couple more horses, and this is a horse that's got just all ones in front. But I think at 6-1 does provide a little bit of value. You get Johnny V aboard, and he's another guy who gets his pick of mounts. So the fact that he's riding for this trainer that generally I don't think very much ships very many horses into Saratoga piqued my interest. I think that it's going to be prominent early. We're going to go ahead and pull up the optics plot here, and you do see the 9 as a nice big old square here in Q1. So you know these are very lightly raced horses. You can only see so much, especially like I said in optics. But hey, showed me that this horse does have good early speed. It does look very contested, which is another reason why I kind of looked at a horse like the 4 coming from off the pace. And that often happens with these 2-year-old stakes races when you get all these horses that have broken their maiden going wire to wire. That's not to say that those run styles are set in stone, but you kind of got to make your best guess here. So my horses in this spot are the 4, the 6, and the 9.
So one thing I will say about Dancing Diana Is anybody out there willing to offer a ridiculous future wager on whether or not Dancing Diana runs in the Diana down the line? That pedigree screams turf to me. By Bolt Dioro out of a Scat Daddy mare. There's a lot of turf there. I can't wait to see what happens when they stretch that one out. Having said that, I looked at Dancing Diana a little bit and I see where you're getting at, but I can't get over the fact that that was a 4 horse field that she dominated against. And yes, the speed figure came back fine. There's no adversity there. That horse was clearly the best horse in a very suspect race. Prefer others for me is probably the more adequate term there. Would it shock me, though, if Dancing Diana ran well in here? No, that wouldn't necessarily stun me. Of the three that you mentioned, that's the one that probably intrigues me the most. But again, we're in on this race. We're both 3 deep. We share nothing in common. And my guess is one of the Butch Reed invaders winds up booming us out of this sequence.
Probably. Um, but yeah, why don't we close it out here with a Phillies state bred maiden claimer 40K.
Yep, this is a standard Saratoga finale. It is a grass grab bag at one of the lowest levels that they will run for. The
I
morning,
love the term grass grab bag, by the way.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yep. The 7, I don't know how we're going to pronounce this one. Arisema? Did we going to go with that? Arisema?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. How about we just call it the 7 and be done with it? The 7 runs for a tag for the first time. Flavian Pratt hops aboard, is probably going to be favored based on that. But I don't think this horse is going to be 5-2. I think this is going to be what my colleague Tom Amello would call a chaos race. I think there's every chance the 7 horse is 7-2 or 4-1 and still winds up being favored. So I don't feel bad about using that horse as a B. This is not a defensive B alert. This is, I think, a case where the odds board is going to look wildly different from the odds board that you see on the morning line. You mentioned a guy last week a couple times, a guy that a lot of people around Saratoga very much like, a disciple of the great Alan Jerkins, a guy that hasn't always had top stock, but his horses always seem to show up come Saratoga time. That's David Donk, and he's got my top pick in here. That's number 4, Stone of Destiny, who had an excuse last time out in her career debut. She did not break well at all whatsoever. Made a little bit of a middle move. You see 5th beaten 9 lengths at the first call. The second call, she's within 3.5 lengths. She made a move and just didn't have anything left because she lost the race at the start. I see that Johnny Velasquez sees fit to stick around and ride back. To me, that screams confidence. I like the drop down from the maiden special weight company in for a tag, even though that's not necessarily quite as big a drop as it looks on paper. It's still a state bred race, folks. So yes, it's a little bit of a drop, but it's a much smaller pool of horses that you could be running against. So don't necessarily use that as justification for singling a dropper when you see that S next to the conditions. Stone of Destiny, I think, is sitting on an improved race. There's a couple of horses drawn to the outside that intrigue me at a little bit of a price. Number 10, Here We Go Again, makes the first start for a new barn that is 29% with new acquisitions. Hasn't run since November 6th, but I see a trainer that knows how to win with horses he's just gotten and knows how to win with horses coming off of long layoffs. I see Luis Saez on a horse with tactical speed. That's a really good match of rider and horse, so need to use Here We Go Again. Also, number 11, Pima Nova, has done her best running going 2 turns. Stretches back out to a 2-turn route of ground, and if you look back at the races this horse ran back in 2022 at Gulfstream and Aqueduct, you see a horse that's got some speed, and a horse that isn't necessarily equipped to go 6 furlongs at Aqueduct. The longer she goes using that speed, the better. And this is not a fantastic field. So there's every chance that Kendrick Carmouche, an aggressive speed rider, could well get this horse out, clear the field, get comfortable, and pop at a price to finish things off. Again, The seven's probably going to go favored. I understand that. There's others in here that I like a little bit more, even if I am using the seven somewhat defensively. 4, 7, 10, 11 for me in the 10th and final on opening day at Saratoga as we try to get this pick five home.
Yeah, the 10 was kind of the last horse I kind of looked at in this spot. So I put a little question mark in there just in case, maybe there's a couple scratches or something. It might be one I kind of take a closer look at a little bit later. You already mentioned my two top picks, the seven, um, Arisema here. And yeah, you already mentioned horses dropping, first time running for a tag. Um, I always get a little concerned when you see a horse, go 8, 9 starts without breaking its maiden. Um, but I mean, it's tough to ignore the quality of jockey that's been aboard the last couple times, and then Flavian decides to give it another go here. So I think that this horse will probably be. Yeah, probably end up being your favorite around 5 to 2, 3 to 1 here, but I like the seven in that spot, and I agree with you on the four Stone of Destiny. David Donk here, you get Johnny V aboard once again, and part of the reason I really like this horse is if you kind of go through the PPs of these other horses, there aren't a lot of lightly raced horses in this spot. Maybe the three, which kind of looks like a no hoper on paper, but the four, you got a bit of excuse from the last time out. It's only got one race on, and it is one that looks like might improve off that. So, especially like I said with the trouble. So I thought the four made a ton of sense here. Stone of Destiny at 9 to 2. I'm just going to go with the four and the seven here, and I think that's all I need to get through here.
The one also eligible that piques my interest a little bit that I would use as a replacement if one of my horses happened to scratch is number 15 Spurs. If you look at this horse, she hasn't done a heck of a lot wrong despite a record that doesn't look very flashy. She debuted going 6 furlongs on the dirt. The horse that won that day, Downtown Mischief, that's a legitimate stakes quality horse. And this is a runner that just needed a race first time out. So you draw a line through that one. April 14th at Aqueduct, she runs a decent fourth against very similar first time out in 3 months. Comes back at Belmont, winds up making a middle move that day. You notice the fact that she's less than 2 lengths back going into the far turn before ultimately running out of gas. I see a slight cutback. I think that'll really help this one. And if you're looking for a bomb in case this race gets ravaged by scratches, I think you can do a lot worse than the 15 if that one happens to draw in.
All right. Well, I got our kind of initial tickets up here. So Andrew, I do have your pick five here, 50-cent pick five, the two with the 5, 8, 9, 11, with the 4, 5, with the 5, 7, 11, with the 4, 7, 10, 11. That's a $48 play for 50 cents there on the pick five. I'm a little bit bigger than you, both ticket wise and probably weight wise. Not height wise though. I think you're taller than me.
6'5".
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got 2 inches on me. Wow. Um, so I have a 50-cent pick five here. Going 4, 6, 7 with 1, 9, 10 with 4, 5, 11 with 4, 6, 9 with 4, 7. It's an $81 ticket. And generally the way I play it is I play one kind of caveman style ticket, and I come back with a press ticket. And I have a 3x press, so I'm playing this for $1.50. 4, 7 with 1 with 4 with 4, 6, 9 with 4, 7. That's an additional $18, and that's about $99 there. So it's a little under $100, which is generally like I said, I try to play between like 75 and $100 usually total structure. So, but yeah, we'll see if the weather holds. We'll see if we're able to. Um, we'll see what it looks like. Obviously, if it ends up being a little bit wet, maybe things always change. So hit us up on Twitter or Discord or If you see a bunch of scratches, or you got any questions, we're always open to chat with people. So
The one thing that I will say is, regardless of the weather forecast, familiarize yourself with the term Saratoga monsoon. These pop up thunderstorms that last for 15 to 20 minutes and wind up resetting the whole track, and in some instances, knocking races off the turf. They happen, deal with it.
yeah. So Andrew, we've mentioned already a couple places where people can find you: andrewchampagne.com, the Pink Sheet, New York Daily News, some random place in California. Where else can people find you?
You can find me on the Pollock Report doing some 2-year-old stuff once a week for them. Was able to cut the first video earlier this week, so very excited about that. You can find me on Threads at 142winners. If you think Twitter is a barren hellscape where dreams go to die, you're not far off. Yeah, you're going to be able to find me in a whole bunch of places over the course of the next 8 weeks or so, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Saratoga's special for any number of reasons, and it's my favorite time of year. I'm really excited to be able to do what I do, and judging by stats and numbers and a whole bunch of stuff that people who don't like me don't want to hear, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, and you can check me out at Cherry Drink on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, wherever you can find at Cherry Drink. It's probably me.
If
And
there's another cherry drank out there, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, ontherewronglead.com. We're going to go ahead and have some written content up there. Obviously, On the Wrong Lead on YouTube if you're listening to this on the podcast form. If you're not listening to the podcast form, consider subscribing there as well. Like, subscribe, hit all the buttons. Hey, it's Saratoga week. Let's have a good one, guys.